Why Procedamus? I remember the day after my ordination, the morning of my first Mass, vesting in the sacristy, putting on the amice, putting on the alb, the cincture, the maniple, the stole, the vestments. I remember the 10 years that I had been preparing for this moment. Aside from the emotions and the nerves, I was aware of what offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass means for myself and for all the faithful. But additionally, given the context of the current persecution of the traditional Catholic faith in the world and in the church. I grabbed my chalice, I grabbed my beretta, looked at the crucifix, bowed, and said, Procedamus in pacem, to which the altar servers replied, In nomine Christi, Amen. I put on my beretta, and we processed out to the altar to offer the holy sacrifice of the Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, the Mass of the ages. Ascending the steps of the altar, I felt only gratitude to our Lord for having allowed me to be an instrument in preserving that which is true, good, and beautiful for future generations, for the ages to come. As long as I'm physically able, this Mass will continue to be offered. This spirit of determination, this spirit of perseverance, is that to which I would love to invite all of you to share. The first annual Procedamus Gala is organized to support the mission of the Oblates of St. Augustine and the old Roman Catholic See of Caer-Glow to preserve the traditional Latin Mass and the traditional Catholic faith for future generations. Procedamus.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, Father. Welcome to a year in review. How are you doing?
Doing well, excited for the new year.
Yes, me too. Me too. I do apologize for being late yet again. Yes, I hear that it's a Mexican thing. So, yeah, definitely. But no, you know, realistically though, this week has been very wild for us here at the house. So, first of all, as let me see, our last live stream was Friday, yeah. So, as you all know, we were all sick during Christmas. So, no midnight mass. We couldn't really even drive. No Christmas Day mass. No mass of Saint Stephen. No mass of Saint John. No mass of the Holy Innocents. Still Sunday. We're pretty knocked out. And then what was this was today's Tuesday, of course. Then yesterday Monday, Mrs. Flatcath wakes up, and I don't think that I even told you this, Father, but she like wakes up and she tells me, "Oh, the baby, 2-month-old baby has a fever." And I was like, "Okay, like what, what do I do about that?" She's like, "Oh, I need to take her to the." This was like at 6 or 7 in the morning. So anyway, so she ended up taking her to the, I think, urgent care or emergency room. I don't know. I don't remember. And so yeah, so the baby was like had the flu. She had a fever, and so apparently it's a big deal whenever babies have a high fever. So it was just a whole thing. So it's been a marathon. And then on top of that, today, you know this, Father, I texted you that I was going to be on time. Then I, then
Famous last
I
words.
yes, I was going to be like really. We scheduled our stream, Father, for
45 minutes. I gave you 45 minutes extra in the time you told
yes.
me.
Oh no, for sure, Father. It was like 5:30 more or less Eastern time, so no problem. I was with a client, and then they were like having some issues and whatever with payment. I was trying to get paid, so they were having issues processing the payment and so on and so forth. And then I received the phone call that I was not expecting, so that distracted me. And so Father, it's Christmas time, and there are very very few people that I've ever worked on in real life that I end up with a bad relationship with. And so one of this, and I can count them with less than two fingers, basically, really less than two. And one of these people called me, and so I was like, I was not expecting it. So anyway, so I called him back, and we had a great conversation. And so yeah, so it's been we've been sick. We're sick all week, and then we have a very very important project also at work going on at the very same time that it's like Christmas and New Year and so on and so forth. And then the blessings of Christmas, Father, which is just peace, vindication, also in some cases, uh, coming through. but we don't necessarily have a very nostalgic program ready for tonight. It's really, of course, the most important event of the year. Let's see. What would you say, Father? The most important event of 2025. What would you say that it was? At least in terms of the news.
In terms of the news, well, the death of Pope Francis and the election of Pope Leo. Very
Yes,
big.
that's exactly what I had in mind. That's exactly what I had in mind. There was stats. Let's see that I sent to you a couple of days ago or yesterday or so. Because what we keep hearing, Father, is that he's the most traditional pope. Like he's more trad than Saint Peter, basically. If you only listen to the grifters, that's basically what you would come out with. So since his election as Pope Leo XIV, he has presided publicly, at least that they've been on like the Vatican media YouTube, 46 masses because there's no sort of, it's not a mass, but masses. Rob says, praying you get better quickly. Alberto, let's start a healthy 2026. Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing better. I'm doing much better than on Friday. But yes, as Mark says, a sick child is really stressful. So we've had 36. I mean, that's like everybody in our house has been sick. And it's also very stressful for a mother to take care of a sick like a sick infant, basically. So anyway. So since his election, he's presided over 46 masses. 40 have been public masses and 6 private masses. I don't necessarily know what the private means because these are all supposedly, there would be more if he's, I mean, we get told that he's the most trad pope ever, so presumably he's offering mass every day, but talks about 6 private masses. I don't know what that means, but this is what this Papal Liturgy report over on Facebook was reporting. So, all right, the most trad pope, as some would have us believe, since St. Peter or so. Amy says, hello, lovely trats in grocery store, but listening on earbud. Welcome to the stream. Really glad that you're joining us, Amy. We have over 40 people watching across platforms. We are live streaming on X. We are live streaming over on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Thank you for the prayers as well. So the most trad pope, or so we are told, Father, since St. Peter, has used 4 times Eucharistic prayer 1. I think that's a Roman canon. It's not the real Roman canon, but I think that's what they refer to it to. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, more or less.
3 times used Eucharistic prayer 2, which is a really short one, the one that they used to save time. So he's used Eucharistic prayer 2 almost as many times as Eucharistic prayer 1. 29 times Eucharistic prayer 3. I think that I don't really, I'm not familiar with any of these prayers, but I think that's the one that people that are very conservative like. I think Benedict XVI probably also like that one.
It's the one the conservative ones want to use, because if they use Eucharistic prayer number 1, alarm bells will start ringing with all the liberals. It's like, oh, he's only excusably using the Roman canon, so he's a super trad. So he, even though he's celebrating the Novus Ordo, it'll send off alarm bells if you just use Eucharistic prayer number 1. So people try to use 3 to even things out a little bit.
And then 3 times Eucharistic prayer 4, and then 1 time, I don't really know what this is, time EP for VN was used. Do you know what that means, Father, in the
time
picture?
EP for V. So John Paul II made a lot of other like Eucharistic prayers for like reconciliation and just additional ones that are kind of in a supplement. So maybe he's used one of those. I don't know.
Yeah, there we go. So the most trad pope ever, he has used the Roman canon under 10% of the time, at least in what's recorded in the public. So there we go.
So has anything really gotten better besides his investments since May?
No,
I mean,
nothing.
Traditionis Custodes hasn't been reversed, so we still have the Archdiocese of Detroit, the Diocese of Charlotte, the Diocese of Knoxville, all throwing altar rails out, suppressing traditional Latin masses. Of course, in Traditionis Custodes, which is something the grifters always forget, is that no priest ordained after 2007 can offer the traditional Latin mass, so all the young guys are out of luck. And then also the traditional breviary, the traditional divine office, doesn't fulfill their obligations for the divine office. So we're kind of just throwing the young priests all under the bus here. Like, as long as they have their old priests celebrating the traditional Latin Mass on the street from them, the grifters are totally fine. You don't need to stand up for the young priests to get their right to offer the traditional Latin Mass back. But all these things are still happening. Bishops are moving up their ranks that have, in their previous dioceses, suppressed the traditional Latin Mass. The new Archbishop of New York has had a gay chancellor, get married, sign a contract to another guy, So, and then when Pope Leo was asked about this, who used to work for the dicastery for the Congregation of Bishops, to appoint bishops, to look at their dossiers, all that kind of stuff, and then he became Pope. Whenever a reporter asked him, "Can you comment on the new Archbishop-elect of New York?" He simply brushes it off and says, "I'm not going to comment about that." What do you mean? You're the guy that's like in the perfect position to comment on it. You looked up the dossier, you knew this guy, and then you appointed him as Pope, but you can't make a comment. So, I mean, and then there's scriptures out there saying, "Oh, we're gonna get the traditional Latin Mass back." I mean, you can point to words, but of course, actions speak louder than words. So,
We'll interrupt here, Father, really quick. We have a question from Rob. He says, Father, good evening and question. My chapel priest offered the Mass of the Sunday in the octave of Christmas this past Sunday, but I believe you offered the Holy Innocents. Why the difference?
because your traditional priest is probably following the 1962 rubrics, whereas I follow the pre-1955 rubrics. So in the pre-1955, Holy Innocents is double of the second class, whereas I think in the 1962 rubrics, the Sunday within the octave of Christmas took precedence over Holy Innocents. So yeah, it's a whole completely separate, different rubrics. Of course, Annibale Bugnini, who created the Novus Ordo, who was the scoundrel, the Mason who created the Novus Ordo, was already employed by Pope Pius XII in the 1950s to start the gradual rewriting of the liturgy. So he started with Holy Week, he started with other rubrical changes, the allowance of Saturday Mass, and therefore the 3-hour Eucharistic fast instead of the midnight fast, and all these other things. So really, the liturgical revolution began in 1955. More or less. But in 1962, they made a huge turn with the suppression of basically all the rest of the octaves. So in 1955, Pope Pius XII suppressed several octaves, and then in 1962, basically all of them. So it's a huge liturgical shift, especially in the divine office and the Roman breviary. So it's so drastic that I was like, I'm going to one step before. But even then, what I'm praying is the Pius X reforms, which is then again a very drastic reform from what came before. And of course, none of these books are actually being printed by publishing companies, so it's impossible to go to anything before the reforms of Pius X. But nevertheless, yeah, that's the explanation, because I follow the basically the 1939 rubrics.
There we go. That's the answer to the question. And then Rob follows up by saying, New York Archbishop appointment is all you need to know about PL 14. Mark says, Archbishop of New York seems like a weak man. Well, that could be the case, but what else can we expect? So now there's another document, Father, that really the grifters don't really talk about a lot because it doesn't concern them. It obviously doesn't concern you, but it concerns licit religious orders, cor orans. I don't believe that one has been revoked either. So there's been no Bergoglian documents have been revoked, as far as I know. Am I right?
Correct. And so the destruction of religious life continues on. I mean, the Franciscan of the Immaculate still don't have their seminary back, so to speak. They don't have the ability to have the traditional Latin Mass. Cor Orans, the unification of all the Carmelite monasteries into federations, which was contrary to the even spirit of St. Teresa of Avila and having autonomous monasteries. Everything is moving forward as planned, and all she's doing is trying to please people with words, in one sense, kind of empty promises, so to speak. It looks like liturgically he's very Benedict XVI, nice vestments, uses Latin. I think he particularly likes that sort of stuff, but I think his agenda for the church is very Bergoglian. And so, I mean, we're gonna get a lot of pictures on social media saying, "Hey, look, he's using Latin," but the trajectory is still synodality.
The Lost Creole says, Father, I have a large missal from 1889. Interested?
I think I have one of those too, actually. It's ginormous. I don't know how often I would use one if I got one.
They're very, very heavy. The altars
Yeah.
are
Poor
significantly.
poor poor 8-year-old altar boys would have trouble going up and down the stairs with an 1889 altar missile.
In other news, Father, also from this year, Cardinal Burke continues to insist that the SSPX is in schism, contrary to what the grifters are trying to tell us.
I think it was you, Alberto, who sent me a picture from Facebook of the SSPX in Monterrey offering a TLM at a Novus Ordo church on the Novus Ordo picnic table.
Oh, this was in the SSPX, I believe, somewhere in Guanajuato,
Okay.
in like the parish or shrine or whatever of Saint Anne and Joachim, something like that. But yes, it was the SSPX offering the Latin Mass on the Novus Ordo table.
And so you take that together with a Copt, COPT, offering the Divine Liturgy on the papal altar in St. John Lateran, the Anglicans offering it at the St. John Lateran Basilica at the chair of the Pope. All these things. I mean, if SSPX was in schism, Cardinal Burke should be decrying all these things. This is communicatio sacris, this is desecration of our altars, all these sorts of things. But he just keeps saying they're in schism, which reality, I mean, at this point, 2025, going into 2026, everybody's picked their camp. Everyone's drawn their line. Everybody's drawn their conclusions. It seems kind of funny that they keep just sounding the same thing because, I mean, he promised a dubia and he didn't deliver. Or he promised a letter of correction, a formal letter of correction, and he never delivered. So, is he a man of his word or is he not? So,
Diane says, wow, they just totally eliminate the Feast of the Holy Innocents. I see one nearby FSSP did not celebrate it this year.
yeah, they did.
What's that? Oh, the
Yeah.
elimination. If it falls on a Sunday, I don't. Father, do you know? Not that you would know. There would be a reason for you to know. But do they have in the 62 rubrics? Do they have commemorations?
I haven't done the 62 in so long. I think in extreme cases, honestly, I can't remember. I haven't done the 62 since like 2017. Let me see if I can pull up the. Let me see if I pull up the rubrics here. Hold on. Divino Officium, share. Am I sharing this?
Yes,
Can you see the screen?
Your
Okay.
screen, yeah.
Let's see. Sancta Misa. So here you see. Well, that's today. Hold on. The 28th. No, that's not right. 12, 28, 25. Okay. How do I fix this? Okay. Domenica infra octavo nativitate, second class. So the Sunday within the octave of the nativity, second class. And here you see commemoration of the Holy Innocents. So I guess, yeah, there is a commemoration. So we'll go to Sancta Misa. Sancta Misa. Let's find the collect. Yeah, so they have a commemorate. They're the prayer and then the commemoration. So they do have commemorations in the 62. By the way, if you don't know this site, divinoofficium.com, this is very, very convenient because it has the mass in both Latin and English. And as you can see, you can just change the date and find the mass that has the divine office here. But then also it has all these rubrics down here at the bottom. So you can see here, you can go all the way back to 1570, what the rubrics were like in 1570. The Prevides, the 10th Reforms in 1910. Divino Afflato in 1939, which is what I use. Then you have the Divino Afflato in 1954, which has the suppression of all the octaves. And then the reduced in 1955. Actually, no. So Divino Afflato in 1954 has the Assumption of Our Lady, Blessed Virgin Mary on October 15th. And it has rubrical changes because it has also liturgical changes for the new propers for the Assumption and the fast days and all that kind of stuff. Reduced 1955 is when all the suppressions of the most of the octaves happened, and then 1960s when suppression of all the octaves basically happened, and that's what you get at the FSSP. So yeah.
So it weirdo says in parts of Florida, FSSP did commemorate Holy Innocents this past Sunday. The Los Creole says in Hispanic America, Holy Innocents is still a big celebration. Before the Anglo-April Fool's Day or the Latino Dia del Niño, there was a Catholic Holy Innocents. Yeah, sure. It's like the Mexican April Fools, basically. Which I don't really like. I don't really like that because I mean, if everybody knows, but then sometimes you don't know, and so they put some people post news or whatever, and sometimes they do. People do this about very grave matters, and so you look at it and you're like what's going on? Michael Rocks says there was a commemoration at low mass, but not at sung mass. Diane says my FSSP must follow pre-55 all year. They did for Easter. As like I heard this a couple of years ago, Father. I don't know how true this is. That there's like a little civil war going on in the FSSP. There's some FSSP parishes follow 62, others 50 pre-55.
Hmm.
My FSSP, and then but supposedly within the leadership of the FSSP, they're trying to push get away from pre-55, or at least they were after Tradiciones Custodes. Eduardo says commemorations are rare, but they do exist in the 62. Sorry about the extra P in FSSP. Eduardo says in Latin America, not just Mexico. Derek asks, Father, do you say the mass from the Common of Pontiffs for Feast of Popes, since that was added in the 40s?
Usually not. For many of the popes, they have their own propers, which actually many of the propers actually line up to what the Common of the Popes became. But usually I just follow the martyrs only because I also pray the divine office, and in my divine office, in my breviary, the Common of Popes is like this thin little leaflet thing in the back, and it's just so impractical to use. And so I prefer to stay consistent between the mass and the office. And so since my office is going to be that of the martyrs, the Common of one martyr, then I usually use that for the mass.
There we go. All right, let's see. No further comments from now. Okay, so now's the time, Father. Let me I'll go ahead and share my screen. But we have this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with with a year in review, but since this show has a lot to do with religious life, because this show is in benefit of the Oblates of St. Augustine, oblatesofstaugustine.org, you can go there and then make a weekly donations, monthly donations, one-time donations. Every penny helps. oblatesofstaugustine.org. Learn more. Another really cool feature that is in the Oblates of St. Augustine website, Father, for those who don't know, is that you have information about Augustinian blesseds and saints. So you can go there and then learn about blesseds, learn about saints. That's a resource that a lot of people don't know about in the oblatesofstaugustine.org, aside from, of course, being able to make your donations.
Also, a big thing too is mass requests. You can request intentions for mass. You can go to oblatesofstaugustine.org/requests, and you can request mass intentions.
And of course, with nearly 100 people tuning in live, we're streaming across platforms. We also want to remind everybody, of course, as our intro says, the Procedamus Gala 2026 in Clearwater Beach, Florida. We're less than a couple of months away now. So make sure to go to procedamus.com and acquire your tickets. It's going to be a big night. Buck Hall will be joining us as the Master of Ceremonies. Father Cabin Robinson will be joining us as the keynote speaker. Father Martin, you will be there. His Excellency Bishop Miko will be there. I will be there. Mrs. Flatcath will be there. Baby Flatcath will probably be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a night. So, okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. I like Eduardo's comment. Some have learned that it's best not to ask questions you don't want answers to. I like this comment. I agree. All right, we had a couple of questions coming through. After we get through this video, because we have to get past the cringe, then we can go to the new questions that are coming in. Of course, feel free to still keep posting your questions over in the comments. Share screen. All right.
Make sure the volume's on.
Wait, I just messed this up. So I don't want to share my full screen. How do I just share the window like you did it?
Oh, I mean, you just scroll down to the very bottom. So you hit share screen, and you hit share screen again.
Oh, okay.
And then you select which window. It probably has to be in your same browser, just a different tab.
Oh, okay, I can share this window. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, Theology of the Body Institute. Needless to say, dumpster, just an absolute dumpster fire. Let's take a look at this video. Hopefully the sound is on. Let's see.
Nope.
Not on. Oh, because I have the sound off. Here we go. First time that I do this. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's see. Audio? Yes?
No.
No audio?
How do you fix that? Let me try. All right,
you have the link, so you can try.
yeah, I have it. Also, share tab audio. Oh, there's something that you have to click there.
Okay, let me do it.
So either share.
Okay, you got it.
Audio. Let me try.
If you are in seminary and you have developed feelings for a female friend, that feeling is either so strong that you're like, I can't imagine life without this woman.
Yes.
Or it can happen that you're like, I still feel called to be a priest. Even though I still have feelings for this, I still have that call.
Nice.
And you're going to know the difference. To have feelings is normal. And
Yes.
that's okay. It's just, you're going to feel the call to one or the other stronger.
Yes.
Like, I can't live life without this woman and I'm going to leave for them. Or I still feel called to the priest, even though I have feelings for my female friend.
Yes.
There we go. Yes, I know it weird. That was echo, but it's fine. It was a very short video. So the according to this, Father, the standard is, can I imagine life without this person? What?
So yeah, there's this idea that, I mean, it kind of implies that it's perfectly okay to date girls when you're in seminary, which is absolutely and totally bizarre. Or even then, that you should be talking to girls in such a way where you can be growing affection for other women, and it's absolutely nuts. Also, these people don't know what it is like to have a vocation. I mean, to have a vocation is precisely when you want to be consecrated, when you want to be set apart for the sacred. You precisely, what means the most is your chastity, is your heart, your affections, everything being completely and totally for our Lord. So if you're going through seminary, just testing the waters, all that kind of stuff, I mean, you're really not serious about a vocation to begin with. So they also don't understand call. A call is an invitation. A call isn't just like a feeling or desire. Feelings come and go. And so they think, if they really think that a vocation is just a mere feeling and then you should just follow your feelings, that's what they're saying, is that you should just follow your feelings which are stronger for a woman, or for towards the priesthood or something. And of course they reduce the priesthood to a job. And this is actually, I wrote for our Substack something called a letter to a seminarian, which is kind of just like a brief overview of how I see the seminary formation for diocesan seminarians, so deficient and so different from what priesthood formation should be traditionally. But there was something that people were saying about one of the new changes in the Diocese of Charlotte in North Carolina, about they had this new propedeutic year, so to speak, this new year where they had to go to a Catholic high school and teach and live in a rectory and pay bills, all that kind of stuff. And one of the objections they said is like, well, this doesn't help form priestly identity. And just kind of a light bulb went off on my head, or like an exclamation point above my head. It's like, what is a seminarian? Is a seminarian a cleric, or are they lay? Because the clerical state begins at the ordination for the diaconate. The lay ministries of acolyte and lector are precisely that, lay ministries. So what is a seminary exactly? They're not cleric. They're not exactly lay, because they're trying to become priests. So what is a seminarian? There is no identity of a seminarian. They walk around with polo shirts now instead of clergy wear, polo shirts with the logo of their diocese. Like, what is a seminarian? They're not consecrated. They have no vows. Technically, if they have affections for a girl and they have a girlfriend, there's no cheating per se. There's no vows. And technically, they're lay people. And so there is no formation of priestly identity for seminarians, because they're not even clergy. They're not even clerics. In the 1917 code, as soon as you got tonsured, very first year, tonsured, a little piece of your hair cut off the back of your head, you put on the cassock, and if you took off your cassock for more than 30 days, you were dismissed from the seminary. There was a strong formation of clerical identity formed in these men for years, but there's nothing like that in seminary formation today. They reduced the priesthood to just a mere job, a mere profession that you have to be celibate to do. And so that's where you get a lot of crises in people's vocations, because they want meaning in their life, they want love in their life, and the Lord, the Blessed Sacrament, isn't the fulfillment of that love. They wanted to give and help people, be counselors, be ministers, but that is not enough. That's giving. But where does the priest get? For me, It's my divine office. It's my mass. It's my mental prayer. It's my time in the Blessed Sacrament. This is where I go to get. Unless I do these things, I have nothing to give my parishioners, my faithful, my flock. Unless I pray, I have nothing to give. But when they reduce the liturgy, the divine office to not the liturgy of the hours, but the liturgy of the minutes, when they don't emphasize the necessity of mental prayer, when you don't have to celebrate Mass on your off day, when the Rosary, Franciscan friar says, oh, I don't pray the Rosary, or even worse, we've turned the Blessed Sacrament into an idol. These sorts of things. There's no prayer life. There's no love that they're getting from Almighty God, from our Lord, to then give to people. They're just giving their weak, human, fickle love, and that neither sustains them personally in their vocation, but neither does that translate into anything useful for the faithful.
By the way, it seems that people in my neighborhood think that we are one day ahead and they are popping fireworks. So in case it comes through through our microphone, yeah, that was an explosion right there. So in case it comes through the microphone, it's probably fireworks. I mean, I haven't looked out the window. It's probably fireworks. All right. No, yes, and Father, the way of, and somebody asked, who are these people? They are like lay grifters, basically. What sort of blows my mind is adults talking about feelings for this or that person. Like, I would think that would be for like teenagers. So the older that I've gotten, Father, I realize how like those feelings, so to speak, are nothing but the passions, basically. Like, it's dumb. It's this whole idea of the feelings is just dumb. Usually it makes people do very stupid things. So this is the idea that adults would be over here saying, instead of saying, oh, you think you have feelings, ignore them, like make a decision. But no, they sort of encouraging, like women encouraging seminarians to follow their feelings.
Well, here's the thing. These two women probably actually married former seminarians. That's probably how they picked it. They were probably chalice strippers, and they maintained friendships with these men in seminary. And because I actually know, in my first community, I was working with a youth group, and one of those, the people that was in the youth group with one of the high schoolers, whatever, actually grew up, went to college, graduated college, but she became really good friends with a priest, and the priest left the priesthood. They got married, and her whole thing on social media was like, "Oh, God only called him to the priesthood for a little bit." Oh, absolutely bizarre, absolutely bizarre. There was
That
an
is so
idea.
cringe. I don't know how to come back from that. That is just to the priesthood for a little bit. So yes. So this whole idea of feelings. And then when it comes,
I was gonna say to this real quick on your idea of feelings. Nothing in marriage is guaranteed. And I tell those people when they're asserting nothing in marriage is guaranteed. So she said, can I live the rest of my life without them, or I can't live the rest of my life without this woman? Listen, Almighty God might have it that you're going to have to, in the sense that who's to say that once you get married, the day after she gets accused of some unjust murder, for instance, and she gets life in prison. Guess what? You're living the rest of your life without your wife. A beautiful house, a tornado, hurricane could take that away. Your bank account, taxes, or whatever else, some robbery could take that away. Every material thing in the context of marriage, holy matrimony, can be taken away. The only good reason to choose holy matrimony is for love of God, saying, Almighty God, I will accept every single cross you give me within this state of life. And then just go do it. Just go do it. So it's not about what you get. It's about what you can give. And which is the best way you can give your heart to our Lord. Complete, total, entire, accepting every single cross that he sends you. Not the ones that you get to choose for yourself, but the ones he sends you.
There's a misconception, Father, in a lot of trad circles, that the way to restore Christian culture is by getting married and having a Catholic family. Now, it's wonderful. Yes, I'm married and I have a lovely Catholic family. But as we saw in our series on the restoration of Christian culture by John Senior, we both happen to agree with him that the way that the Christendom gets restored is via the monasteries and the religious houses. That's in contradiction to because, for example, people like in the video that we saw, and I agree with Mark Becker says it's better not to have sound. I agree. But this sort of comes, Father, from the idea that, oh yeah, we both are fighting for the restoration, so you can be married or you can be, I mean, they're talking here specifically about seminary, but you can be religious or you can be married or whatever, like really whatever way, whichever way you choose, you're working for the restoration. Yes, we are propagating continuing the human race and then providing possible vocations, but it's a more of an indirect work. You can make millions and then build a monastery and build a massive beautiful monastery, but if there are no people that want to consecrate their lives to God, then it's just a bunch of rocks. It's not the rocks, the building that makes a monastery. It's what it gets used for. So we can contribute in an indirect way, but it's not a comparable. It's not a like, oh look, it's two vocations, so to speak, or two, or even in the trad sense of like of understanding the Christ in the church and wanting to do something for it. It's not, if we want to work directly for the restoration of Christian culture, we need to go toward religious life. Let's see.
Oh, I was going to say something about religion. Oh, so I was actually looking up a little bit similarities between the Emperor Constantine, who lived in the early 300s, and then King Clovis the First, who was in France. And the conversion of King Clovis came about very similar to the kind of the conversion of St. Constantine, in the sense that St. Clovis was fighting some enemy. His wife was Catholic, and he said, if I win this military battle, I'll attribute it to the God of my wife, and I'll convert. He won the battle, took it as a sign, converted to Catholicism, and that's what really started Catholicism in France. But, well, in terms of the state religion. But one thing that I found uniquely similar between King Clovis and Emperor Constantine was the fact that these two politicians, so to speak, because there was widespread Christianity already in the people of their nations, these politicians found it expedient to convert to Catholicism. The politicians found it expedient to convert to Catholicism. A lot of people today, when they talk about restoring Christendom, it's the exact opposite, that Catholics should find it expedient to become politicians. It's the exact opposite of how Christendom was actually founded. The Christendom is really a fruitful byproduct, something that happens as a secondary cause, secondarily to the Great Commission. We go with zeal, we convert souls, we make the population Catholic, and then the politician will be like, hey, I should use this as a force for my politics, for my good for my nation, as opposed to just being a small little remnant and trying to get up the ladder that has all these barbed wire fences, so to speak, placed by all those who, the worldlings, the Antichrist that want to control the world, control the countries, trying to slip through the barbed wire. In fact, we should convert the nation to Catholicism, and then the politicians will have to abide, especially if there's a voting country. If we convert souls, eventually they're going to have to cave. But we just don't want to do the work. It's a lot of work. Also, I mean, Charlemagne was crowned in 800 by Pope Leo III. So that was 800 years of it, being in the works, Christendom. So,
getting back to the chat, Rob asks, do you have and there's a question I would say for you, Father. Do you have a recommendation on a good and easy to understand Catholic study Bible?
I mean, you could always get the St. Ignatius one, but that Scott Hahn did. I mean, that's not going to be too bad. Personally, I just use commentaries. So the Cornelius a Lapide commentary on the Gospels, the Catena Aria by St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, those are the two big ones that I use to see what the Church Fathers wrote regarding commentaries and that kind of stuff. So the Cornelius a Lapide, the great commentary of Cornelius a Lapide is a great investment. Let's see, where did he put? What was the last one? He's all the way up here.
Back. All right. Derek says, Where do you get pre-55 altar missal and breviary? I've always wondered who publishes them.
Nobody's published them. I tried working with someone in the past about publishing a pre-55 breviary. Someone donated some money to them, but it's still in the work like 4 years later. Anyway, but eBay is the only place you can find them. Actually no. Pre-55 missal, I believe. Dom Alcuin's group out in France. I think they are actually now they've in small batches they're publishing the pre-55 altar missals. So
The Lost Creole says, when did they start first, second, third privilege octaves? Is that 55 or before?
it's 55. Yes, there's then the 55.
Let's see. Oh, I'm way back. All right. Justin Whiteley says, hello, thoughts on fake Sister Lucia after her 1957 appearance with Father Fuentes? Does the content of this interview with the priest vindicate the crisis in church and why they needed to replace her? So, at least in my personal opinion on the fake Sister Lucia, I think that it's very obvious that yes, there is a fake Sister Lucia. On the second part of the question, does the content of this interview with the priest vindicate the crisis in church and why they needed to replace her? I'm not familiar with this interview actually, and I'm not very big on the Our Lady of Fatima sort of what is it? Eschatology according to Our Lady of Fatima. I'm not very big on it because it's all very confusing. Because I do believe there was a fake Sister Lucia, so it's very confusing the stuff that's out there. What do you think, Father, on the fake Sister Lucia, if any?
I mean, I think the pictures are pretty obvious. So I mean, they did a very poor job in finding a stunt double. But yeah, as far as the apparitions themselves, I'm not actually too familiar about that because I mean, the world's gonna end, sure, and we all need to save our souls and do penance, sure. I mean that part of the apparition is true. I mean, First Fridays, it's a beautiful devotion, regardless of what it means regarding any yeah, as you said, as well, it's not really eschatological. It's just how things will play out for the rest of humanity, like how the world will end, or that eventually Russia will convert and the whole world will be consecrated to our the Immaculate Heart. These sorts of things. These are all great things to work for, to pray for, but when you only have so much time today to study, to pray, and to do apostolate, and so I'm not one to consider myself an expert on Fatima or anything like that.
Yep, I agree. Derek says, St. Pius X didn't suppress any octaves. In fact, I think he added more. The Lost Creole says, great. Not only are women telling men in general what to do, they are telling priests what to do. Oh, yes.
Welcome to my world.
The trad wives are also very much really, really bad about this. Eduardo says the Charlotte change seems like a band-aid for the lack of vocations in religious orders. It's really, really bad. There's a lot of religious orders that have a couple of elderly women and that are trying to hold out, and then that's it. Once they die, it's done. Diane says there is something to the idea of women being quiet. Tennessee 2 says, I have heard the priesthood referred to as a career. And Mark Becker says a social worker, somebody that gives psychological advice on how to be happy, Father.
I know a priest who says for their passing exam, in order to get out of seminary, they had to answer a particular question, and if they got this question wrong, they would not get ordained. And the question was, what is a priest? And the correct answer was a social worker who prays. If you didn't say that, you were not ordained.
And the prayer is optional. Let's see. Rob says Mary wasn't quiet, neither was Saint Catherine of Siena. Yes, but they're not feminists. It's completely different from what these insane women are doing. Mark Becker says seems kind of gay. As a man, I don't talk about feelings. Well, this is specifically in related to feelings toward a woman. Which, look, if I think, Father, if we all look back to our high school years, well, it depends. Anyway, if we all look back to our high school years and we think about girls that we had feelings for, and for the noble sort of priests, maybe boys that they had feelings for, um, we can look back and be like, that was just stupid. And so anyway, we look for a rational decision, and love is in the will. Love is in the will. So Rob says, but yes, oh, there we go. But yes, these women should keep quiet. Edward says, agreed. That was the weirdest part of the video. Who are these gals commenting on the priesthood?
Just your famous Augustine Institute grifters, Ascension Press, Augustine Institute, those kinds of grifters out there in Denver, Colorado.
Mark Becker says, wives do tend to run off. Diane says, feelings are overrated. Edward says, as a perfect society, the church needs clergy and laymen to grow. It doesn't happen spontaneously. Exactly. It takes a lot of work. It's not like it's just. I think that a lot of times, Father, as the lay people, we fall into this view that we not only deserve but have a right to the sacraments. In the sense, not necessarily a right to the sacraments, but a right to do whatever immoral stuff and so on and so forth, basically to get the priest to offer the sacraments for us, thinking that because we have a right as the baptized to the sacraments, that we have a right to be the bosses of priests, essentially. Diane says, which Bible? Sorry, I missed that.
St. Ignatius Study Bible.
Tennessee 2 says, I think that one of the main reasons that religious houses are attacked by the hierarchy is because deep down they know that the prayers of the religious nurture the church. Well, it just goes to show how really, because Father, religious life comes from the very, very, very beginning of the church. So, yes, I mean, they are satanic, and so they attack. They know that if they are able to destroy religious life, and they already largely destroyed authentic religious life after Vatican II anyway. But that's why this is why even, Father, a lot of, for example, the e-priests hate you and hate what you do, because they're like, oh, why does he get to just live his charism authentically when we have to over here be pretending that we like the Novus Ordo?
He's not obedient. That's why they say it, is because he doesn't have to sacrifice the faith. I'm like, well, duh. I'm not going to sacrifice the faith to be. It's an oxymoron.
And so because they violate their conscience, Father, because they know that the Novus Ordo is wrong, but they go against their conscience for monetary gain, to have a nice house, and so on and so forth. And so they have to react negatively against those that are going through the struggle and didn't go do whatever they wanted to do for comfort. Eduardo says, I think Dr. Kwasniewski was involved in a new printing of the pre-54 missals, but no recent news.
I heard of him printing some sort of missal, but I was under the interpretation it was some sort of mix, like 1962 plus like modern saints added or something like that. I don't know. I have to check.
Latin Mass for St. John Paul II. Diane says, many tried wives need to practice self-discipline. Lots of talking, even right after Mass. Should we try to remain recollected after Mass? Yes, of course. But women will always try to talk. And we have been, Father, sort of conditioned through the years, especially in modernity, to think that women are the more disciplined, that women are the ones that keep order in society, that if it really wasn't for women, we wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. When in reality, we know when that women cannot be left unchecked. The moment that women are allowed to just do whatever they want to do, there's a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. And, they make great secretaries. You give them the list of things to do, they do it. Great. I mean, they're disciplined in the sense of work discipline very well, but obviously in nurturing children, they're very disciplined. They teach them how to behave. But then, yes, I mean, obviously they have a desire to chat with their friends after mass and all that kind of stuff. And the foyer is there for a reason. The parish hall is there for a reason. Coffee and donuts is there for a reason. Just make it a point just to go and visit. Short. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of time there, but of course, people just want to hurry up and get away, right? So, yeah, I don't know. To each their own circumstances, I guess.
Eduardo says, Pax Christi, good night and a blessed 2026 to you all. So today's the Margaret says, modern women end up on OnlyFans. Yes,
No,
I agree. So it's 9 p.m. Eastern time, Father. We have about 10 minutes left to go on the show. I'm not going to have us make predictions for 2026 because that is
I mean,
Did
but
you say something? I lost you.
No, I mean, I was gonna say, okay, you're not gonna make us make predictions for 2026, but what are your predictions for 2026?
Well, I will say that I'm very surprised to see the grifters sticking out with Leo the 14th this long. It's been over 6 months. I'm shocked that they've kept it up, especially because I go into the comments of even like a Novus Ordo publications post about something conservative that Leo does, and I see nothing but basically negative comments. So they go with the wind. Whenever the people seem to be already tired of Prevost, they're going to go against him. So I thought that we were already at that point, but apparently not so. So I don't know. I don't have any expectations for the political arena either. I think it's going to be the way that we end 2025 is just the exact same way that we're going to be writing 2026. How about
I think
you?
one thing in particular is that they're going to try a strategy of like a good cop, bad cop with bishops in the traditional Latin Mass, meaning that a lot of the bishops that are going to be elevated are ones that have proven to be in favor of Traditionis Custodes. But Leo wants to look like the hero, so he's going to look like he's going to want the bishops to do all the bad work, the work that really needs to be done, and Leo's just going to come in to look like some sort of hero, just give you a little small little candy here and there, so that people could be, oh, Leo, oh, look, he's saving us. Oh, he really cares for the faithful. Meanwhile, everyone's on the same page saying, okay, the bishops are the ones that are actually going to be cracking down on this, not the Pope. So I think that's going to be the plan coming in this New Year's, is the Pope's going to say in this consistory that the Novus Ordo needs to be reverent, just like what Stupich said to the Institute of Christ the King whenever he asked them to do one Novus Ordo Mass a month at St. Joseph's Shrine up in Chicago. And he emphasized reverence and incense and Latin. All that was fine with Stupich. Stupich was fine with that. Stupich was fine with the Unicorn Mass. So that's what I think is going to be an emphasis on the consistory here in the next week. But then the bishops are supposed to be the bad guys coming down and cracking down on the Latin Mass, and Leo, if ever he has to, he's going to look like the good guy, so that people can love the Pope, be faithful to the Pope, and feel like the Pope loves and cares for them. And meanwhile, the Pope lets the local bishop do whatever he wants.
Yeah, pretty much. Tennessee 2 says, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And then it also says, I am always amused when I hear someone, usually a woman, say that if women ran the world, there would be no wars. As a woman, I know that we would already be nuking each other. And then Diana says, I don't mean to be so critical of the other women, but it can be a challenge. Yeah, I agree. So we were told, or at least I kept hearing, like also in real life and all that stuff. Now, at least the people that I was hearing this from in real life, after more or less after September, they said, okay, whatever, this is like a Francis 2 or worse. But I kept hearing about how, like, come on, Prevost just came into office, okay? After the summer, he's going to fire the entire Curia, and then he's going to bring in all of the Trats in. He can't just do it like right away. Okay.
I mean, exactly. Go ahead.
No. Yes. So Tucho is still in office, and what is important, maybe for those of us, Father, that we are not on the news consistently, but anybody that is consistently in the news knows that all that you have to do whenever a crisis comes out on the news, on the media, is just wait like 2 days, and then it's going to go away. So remember already like a month ago when people were saying, oh, this new Tucho Fernandez book that we didn't know about, it wasn't included in his CV. Well, now Pope Leo XIV has to fire him. He's going to fire him for sure now. Wow, this is so horrible. They just literally ignored the news. Yeah, okay, cool. Like, don't do anything. And now nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers the new book, not a new book, but the book that was discovered as part of Tucho Fernandez's work that was not mentioned in the CV whenever they put out, oh, this is a new head of the DDF under Pope Francis. So they just know that, just wait. Whatever crisis comes out. Oh, by the way, we're not talking about how literally nothing has been done about Father Rupnik. Nothing. So,
there's no accountability for journalist rage baiters. There's no accountability. And so they can keep their jobs, whatever. They just need to create rage, get clicks, and there's no accountability for the predictions or what agenda perspective they're trying to sell, especially when it's about, trying to build hope that the future is going to have a traditional Latin Mass, all the kind of stuff to keep people from preparing for their families. Yeah, it's tragic.
The Lost Krill says, I predict Leo XIV will wear red shoes to make the grifters happy. This would be really what would prove that he's a genius, which I believe that he's very smart. He needs to wear the red shoes. Once he does that, the grifters they will come out with documentaries about the history of red shoes. And look, here Pope Pius the Ninth red shoes, and Pope Leo XIII, and Pope Pius X, and Pope Benedict XVI. Oh, look,
well, he wore the white. Remember when they freaked out because he wore the white Saturno?
Yes. Well, didn't he like put it on for a picture? Like they gave it to him, he like put it on for a picture and then took it off. And they were freaking out. They were like, it's fun. And now they were freaking out because he wore his coat of arms on the what's the name of the
fascia?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, the white belt.
Yes, it's like he wore his shield on. It's like, okay.
Well, it's gotta take a while to get that actually embroidered and stuff. I can't imagine it being immediate. So of course it's gonna take a minute,
He had to come up with I don't know how soon after the election he decided on his coat of arms. Like I don't think that's an immediate thing, especially if you want to make changes or whatever. Then you finally make it and you get it embroidered and all that stuff. So it's I do hope that he wears the red shoes. That would be the cherry on top. It would just be, you would have a picture of Pope Benedict XVI and then Prevost next to each other with their stole and then the red shoes. I hope that he does that. Diana Lee says, I predict that some things will never change until Judgment Day. And Mark Becker says, we can only pray that he cleans house. So we're about to hit the 1 hour mark. We have about 130 watching across platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This is a year in review. We do want to remind everybody to go to Oblates of St. Augustine.org. There you can make a weekly, a monthly, or a one-time gift to the Oblates of St. Augustine. And of course, most importantly, the Procedamus 2026 Gala in Clearwater Beach, Florida. Buck Hall will be joining us as a Master of Ceremonies. Father Calvin Robinson will be joining us as a keynote speaker. It will be a wonderful night. Father Martin, you will be there. Bishop Mikkel will be there. There's a lot of people that have been telling me, I want to meet Bishop Mikkel. Of course, all I have to do is go to St. Petersburg, right? But they will be at the Procedamus 2026 Gala in Clearwater Beach, Florida. Father, is there anything else? Oh, well, you can remind our audience, Father, about next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we're beginning our new series here on Restless Heart Media on The Story of a Soul by St. Therese of Lisieux, the third book within the French spirituality. The we didn't really intend to do it, but anyway, we've kind of fell into it, of the school of French spirituality. So it's a third book in the same spirituality. So a third perspective, a third way of living it, a third way of helping to understand this very practical way to pursue holiness. Also, I wanted to remind everybody, where do you buy the book? Baronius Press is the edition that we're using. You can find it on Amazon just as well, maybe cheaper paperback, whatever works. So it'll be Story of a Soul by Saint Therese of Lisieux. And also, last but not least, www.oblatesofsaint.org/intentions. If you need access to a priest to offer mass for your intentions, you can go to this website /intentions to request a mass for your loved ones.
There we go. Awesome. Well, see you all on. We're back on Friday. We're back on Friday. Friday night leisure. See you all then. See you, Father.
Happy New Year later. God bless. Why Procedamus? I remember the day after my ordination, the morning of my first mass, vesting in the sacristy, putting on the amice, putting on the alb, the cincture, the maniple, the stole, the vestments. I remember the 10 years that I had been preparing for this moment. Aside from the emotions and the nerves, I was aware of what offering the holy sacrifice of the Mass means for myself and for all the faithful. But additionally, given the context of the current persecution of the traditional Catholic faith in the world and in the church, I grabbed my chalice, I grabbed my biretta, looked at the crucifix, bowed, and said, Procedamus in pacem, to which the altar servers replied, In nomine Christi, Amen. I put on my biretta, and we processed out to the altar to offer the holy sacrifice of the Mass, the traditional Latin Mass, the Mass of the ages. Ascending the steps of the altar, I felt only gratitude to our Lord for having allowed me to be an instrument in preserving that which is true, good, and beautiful for future generations, for the ages to come. As long as I'm physically able, this Mass will continue to be offered. This spirit of determination, this spirit of perseverance, is that to which I would love to invite all of you to share. The first annual Procedamus Gala is organized to support the mission of the Oblates of St. Augustine and the old Roman Catholic See of Caer-Glow to preserve the traditional Latin Mass and the traditional Catholic faith for future generations. Procedamus.